Oh, I'm going first. I thought I would get to go last. All right. Hey, good morning. There you go. How about that? Good evening. I'm Joe Alcoholic. Yeah. Ooh, gee, it threw me all off there. My name's Joe. I'm an alcoholic. And thanks for your kind words, Romina. Romina's my sponsor. I guess so. My story is all about wanting to fit in. And my willingness, and then ultimately my willingness, I had to admit, which was really difficult, that I had a problem. I didn't think I was an alcoholic, but now looking back on it, I know that I came by it honestly. My grandfathers, my father, my uncle, my sisters, my brother, my niece, we were all alcoholic or addicted to something or another. Had a very strict religious upbringing. You might recognize me from knocking on your door on Saturday mornings. Anyways, I don't want to speak badly about religions, but that was not a good experience for me personally. I was expelled from that religion when I was 19 because my parents found out I had a girlfriend. Okay. And that was like being shot out of a cannon. Okay. So I immediately lost everybody and everything that I knew up to that point. I was disfellowshipped. And how that looked for me was, like I'd see my mom in the grocery store. She would turn her little cart around, walk the other way. So that was, it was really difficult. And I didn't really quite know what to do with myself. So I kicked around for a few years. When I was 24 years old, I got hired as a firefighter in a fairly large town a little south of here, Tacoma. That little town, yeah. The other one, the unmentionable one, yeah. So here I am, I'm 24 years old. I feel like, oh man, I've won the lottery. But this was 1987, and there were only 6 women out of 400. So, but I felt like I had family again, right? So, and boy, did I sure want to fit in. So I don't want to say that all firefighters drink to excess, but some do. And when I kind of started trying to drink with the boys. Mm-hmm. And the thing about that is I'm not a boy, and a lot of the guys were bigger than me. And then I also, at some point, got involved with our union, and that's firefighter drinking times 10. And when I remember the day as clear as day, the day that I won my position on the union board, executive board, the union president came up to me and he put his hand out and he said, "Congratulations, you got on the executive board. How's your liver?" And I said, "I don't know what that means." And he said, "We're going to find out." So, anyways, there's stories about that, but I won't go into that. But I can honestly say I never drank on duty, but there were times when I went into work pretty wrecked, and I'm not proud of that. It was the best career that I could have ever had. I retired after 28 and a half years. But it also hurt me, too, in some ways. There were some things that happened. A situation happened. It hurt me really badly. I touched my gun because of that. And it was just this thing that happened. I know that at this point that I do have a higher power, although I didn't believe it at the time, kept me from doing that. After 28 some years of retirement, I had an opportunity to retire at a pretty young age. But like the big book said, out came the carpet slippers. Now I can drink all day, right? So I spent all of my time in retirement for the first 2 years preparing to drink, drinking, and recovering. That's kind of how that went. I stopped accepting invitations. I stopped answering the phone. I stopped. I didn't want to fit in anymore. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to drink until I die, and I was just fine with that. I say, you know, my world got small, like those of us that are old enough. I see a few of us around. Remember how when you used to turn off the TV and the thing went small like that? You know, right? Got about as big around as the backside of my cat, right? That's about how big my world was, right? Pretty much, yeah. North side of my southbound cat, whatever it's something like that. Okay. But then my eyes got opened when my niece, who I had raised, she was the closest thing to my own child. She got mandated to treatment and AA when she got like her third DUI. And I went to my first AA meeting because I'm going to be a good auntie. And so I went to an AA meeting, and God dang it, they didn't tell my story. I sat there and I'm like, shit, they're talking like me. But sadly, my niece didn't make it out of this disease. She passed away a couple of years ago, 34 years old. She killed her liver, you know. But what that got me to do was that first AA meeting, I stood at the turning point. I stood there for a long time. I actually did the calculations. I thought, okay, I can ride this alcohol pony right into the ground. I'll probably get 5 years, which I wouldn't have really. You know, the way I was drinking, I would have died. So I thought to myself, maybe I should tell my doctor, and that's what I did. I finally admitted to my doctor. I'm sitting I'm sitting in the exam room in my little paper gown, you know, and the breeze is blowing and everything. And I'm listening to her fumble around outside like the doctors do, you know, she's playing with the charts and all this stuff. And I'm like, God, tell her. No, don't tell her, you know. And she comes in and I finally tell her, I'm like, doctor, I can't stop drinking. You know what she says to me? She fixes her mouth and she says, oh, you're an alcoholic. Now I'm mad, right? Like she's saying, like, we have a cream for that. Oh. She says it like easy as pie. Oh, you're an alcoholic. But she was right, and she said, okay, I gotta send you for an assessment. Anyways, the end of that story was I went to inpatient treatment. That was just my story. That's what I needed. When I went to treatment, I had to level my pride. I had to become willing. I had to realize that I needed to do things that were not comfortable for me. When I got out of treatment, I went to my first place, which ultimately became my my home group at that time. I needed to get a sponsor. My first sponsor was I was a little bit afraid of her because I knew she wasn't going to put up with my bullshit. Yeah, Romina is like my fourth sponsor. But how am I doing time?
Right here, you have 6 minutes.
Oh, okay, thanks. So the first time that I went into the morning meeting down in Tacoma, as a firefighter, usually I walk into the room and you want to look at who's in charge and where are the exits, right? So I toddle up to I looked for the old guy with the white hair. I thought, okay, you must be in charge. And he kind of laughed. He's like, haha, go sit down. That's not how this works. Anyways, so I went and sat down, and I looked at all those things on the wall, and I thought to myself, I'm not doing 4 and 5. 6 and 7, yeah, I could probably do that. 8 and 9, no, I'm not doing those either. You know, so still, I wasn't really willing to. Oh man, I had to find a sponsor and start doing what I was told instead of doing things my way. That for me, I just really needed to become willing, and that took me a lot of time. But what happened? I also, the other thing was my dear friend who was the fire chief down in Tacoma. She used to tell me, Joe, you're always so even. You know, you never show emotions. And I took that as a compliment. I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's right. But I realized that I was drinking to smash down my emotions. And my sponsor said, real human beings have emotions. And that was one thing that I needed to learn. I was taking better care of, my house was always painted, my truck always had an up to date on the oil change, all that. But I was taking better care of my things than I was of my body. I was drinking. I was letting my resentments control my life. I was drinking poison, hoping the other person died. All that kind of stuff, that they say. So what a relief for me to know that I'm nobody's in charge of AA. I'm only responsible for my own actions. I can feel things now. And most importantly for me, because I thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to do the God thing because of how I grew up, right? It wasn't that I didn't want to, I wasn't sure that I could. So finding out that I got to choose my own higher power, this was my higher power. Okay? Canada Goose. So when my first sponsor said, Joe, you got to pick something, I was like, mm-mm. So I'm out walking my dog, and I see him flying over all the time. I see him. And what you know about, I don't know what you know about Canadian geese, but they always fly in the V formation. And the one in the front is the one doing most of the work. And the other ones kind of fall in. And I thought, I was being kind of snotty. I thought, all right, well, I'll just pick a Canada Goose. There you go. And but as I started realizing, it's a good reminder for me, Joe, I don't always have to be in charge all the time. I can let somebody else take the lead. I don't have to be in control of everything. There's times when I can let somebody else take the lead and I can fall back and rest for a little bit. Also, the thing about Canada geese is if one gets tired and needs to land, one or two of them will land with them. Hang out till you're ready, able to go on, So her name is Grace. She has her own travel bag. She goes places with me. She's been to Australia. She's been to South America. She's been, anyways, she's been all over the place. And so I figured that I can have my own higher power. It's not a wrathful, angry God, judgmental one of my youth. And I am so grateful for my sponsor, Romina, who has had much patience with me, for my friends, for my family, and for everyone here who has allowed me to speak. Thank you. Thank you for that.